ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2014 OECD Forum. Welcome to the OECD Week. Welcome to this quest towards more resilient economies for more inclusive societies. I cannot think of more urgent endeavors in the realm of public policy and human well-being. The great Gabriel Garcia Marquez, our dear, recently departed Gabo, Nobel Prize for Literature, who is now surely in Macondo having a coffee with Colonel Aureliano Buendia, one of his unforgettable characters. He once wrote, "La sabiduría nos llega cuando ya no sirve para nada," which translated freely means wisdom arrives to us when it's no longer useful. Well, this forum is an attempt to challenge that warning. After 6 years of crisis, the world needs our wisdom, the world needs our inspiration, the world needs our new ideas, and the world needs them now. There are billions of people waiting for that new idea. And that new idea can be born here, at the OECD, in these 3 days. This is a timely meeting. The global economy is showing important signs of progress. Global GDP is expected to grow by close to 3.5% in 2014 and close to 4% in 2015. Global trade is growing again, with growth forecasts of 4.7% for this year and 5.3% for next year. Global development aid has rebounded last year. It actually reached the highest levels ever recorded. Now, this is certainly all good news, but it is not enough. It is still not enough to bring the 202 million unemployed in the world back to a decent job. It is not enough when we have 73 million youngsters out of work. And it is not enough when inequalities in many countries are now growing faster than before the crisis. And it's certainly not enough when trust in leaders, governments, parliaments, corporations, banks, rating agencies, regulators, media is eroding and is reaching record lows. Now, our response to the crisis should be a game changer. We obviously cannot go back to business as usual. It's almost a cliche now. We cannot go back to the same active inertia where high net worth individuals and multinationals do not contribute their fair share to society, where the vulnerabilities of financial systems are camouflaged, where speculation and leverage keep flying high, and where some policymakers and economists are still clinging to economic models that have been proven obsolete, wrong, or unsustainable. It is time to imagine a new type of growth focused on the well-being of people, on the benefits of equitable societies, on the trade-offs and complementarities of different policies in favor of human progress. I'm talking about what we at the OECD call inclusive growth, one of the 3 main topics of this forum, and a central discussion issue in our 2014 Ministerial Council meeting. Now, what do we mean by inclusive growth? Well, basically, that economic growth should deliver better living standards for all, and that increased prosperity must imply better social outcomes and greater well-being. A substantial commitment to social inclusion is imperative to achieving sustainable economic growth in the 21st century. With the right tools, with the right policies, we can make it happen. The OECD's Inclusive Growth Initiative takes up the challenge. It aims to enhance policymakers' understanding of the adverse effects of rising inequality on growth and turn inclusiveness into a driver of stronger economic performance. Not just a moral or ethical question, but a driver of stronger economic performance. Now, the second topic of the forum is jobs. This is still the center of gravity of the crisis. The crisis destroyed nearly 14 million jobs across OECD countries. And in spite of recent progress, most notably in the United States, many of our countries are still facing unacceptably high levels of unemployment. A large segment of the unemployed are under 25. And a worrying number has been out of work for more than a year. In the euro area, by the end of 2013, 1 in 2 unemployed persons had been out of work for 12 months or more. Now, fixing this deplorable situation implies some of the most complex policy challenges. How to create more decent jobs when companies are sitting on liquidity worth hundreds of billions of uninvested dollars. How to better help the unemployed to reconnect with the labor market when their skills are eroding fast and are no longer meaningful for the type of demands that the market is putting on them. What kind of labor market rules can help us reduce inequality in a systemic way? We're all here to address these issues. The OECD is helping governments tackle weak labor market adaptability and inadequate skills development. We're monitoring labor markets, training, policy responses, and migration trends. And we're measuring it. This is not an intuitive recommendation. We're measuring it, we're comparing it, we're benchmarking it, and coming up with these recommendations. And we're accelerating our work to deal with youth unemployment with the OECD's initiative called Giving Youth a Better Start. Now, you have to understand, if education and training don't improve the lives of our youth, because notwithstanding these efforts, at the end of the efforts, they face the unemployment cliff, well, we will be undermining the most important value for any democracy and any market economy, and that is trust. And trust is precisely the third topic that we will address in this forum. One of the heaviest legacies of the crisis is the erosion of public trust to historically low levels. The 2014 Edelman Trust Barometer puts global trust in governments at 44%, with record lows in places like France, 32%, Mexico 28%, Poland 19%. These are alarming numbers. The evaporation of trust in key institutions weakens our democracies. It erodes social cohesion. It makes reform more difficult. It damages economic growth. Now, the OECD has a duty and a responsibility for reinvigorating trust. This forum will give us the opportunity to test and enrich our work on key areas for public trust, like open and inclusive government, fair and transparent tax rules, anti-corruption policies, financial regulation, long-term investments, particularly for infrastructure. These are enormously important tools to recover trust in governments and in leaders. Diane Coyle wrote in a blog precisely for this forum, and I quote, "We will only be able to make the necessary difficult decisions if there is enough trust in those whose job is to lead us." And to achieve these goals, it is also essential that we improve the productivity and the competitiveness of our economies. This is why we're also dealing with the overhauling of the tax systems, the better understanding of global value chains, the role of knowledge-based capital, and the transition to greener economies. We need to look beyond a quick recovery fix to lay the foundations of a new type of growth that makes these crises improbable, if not impossible, in the future. So we'll have to challenge conventional knowledge. We'll need new economic thinking and acting. This is what is expected of the OECD. And this is why the OECD has launched its New Approaches to Economic Challenges initiative, or NIAC, to revise our economics, to question the established models, improve our policy advice, to do better our job of supporting you, the member countries, and the growing number of key partners. After all, what is the point of economics if not to improve people's lives? What's the point of economic policy if not to build more inclusive, more harmonious societies? What is the value of international cooperation if not to share our knowledge, to raise the living standards of the most vulnerable? Sometimes the simplest questions like these will generate the most important, biggest truths. So, Prime Minister, Dr. Furman, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking all the people that have made this encounter possible. The sponsors, the speakers, the moderators, the interpreters, the media partners, the technicians, the cameramen and women, the photographers, all the OECD staff, and all the OECD members who have worked day and night to have everything ready today. Thanks also to the Japanese chair of the MCM, who has also been present and supportive of this undertaking. Let's make the most of this OECD week. Let's help our countries build more resilient economies and more inclusive societies. I encourage you to actively participate in our panels, in our idea factories, in our discovery lab, and in the new edition of the Better Life Index. Feel free. Speak out. Dare to get it wrong. Get it right. Get it. Let's prove Garcia Marquez wrong. Let's make wisdom count today. Have a great forum, and thank you.